Bullshit.
It's the No BS Marketing Show. I'm Dave Mastovich, CEO and founder of Massolutions, the world's only no bullshit marketing firm. Today is a special day being recorded on Super Bowl Sunday in the morning into the afternoon. Is episode 400, and we have Alec, Brevin, and Carter, who were also on episode 100, and we're going to look back at what they talked about on episode 100, and we're also already mimicked the picture from episode 100. And trust me, when you have boys to men and they've aged in 4.5 years, you see dramatic differences in their looks and their voice, and that's what's going to be a lot of fun for Marcel McCaskill and I as we produce the show afterwards. So thanks for being at the show, guys. I'll start with Alec, the oldest. What are your thoughts on coming back for episode 400?
Oh, well, first of all, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to come down to your beautiful studio, but I can't believe it's already 400. I guess the math adds up. 4 years, about 100 episodes a year. That's a pretty cool accomplishment, so it's a pleasure to be here with my brothers.
Brev.
No, I'm just happy to be here. You know, I'm always willing to do it, you know. Like, I remember the first time whenever we did this at the beginning, I was like, I can't remember what I did, but it was so short. Do you remember?
Yes, I do. Because you've all been on in the early episodes. So you all were on in one of the first 50 episodes.
Wasn't it like, where do we even record
We used to record them upstairs in the Pittsburgh Videotech Center, who is our landlord. They also do all the satellite interviews when you see any major politician in Pittsburgh and the skylines behind them or any athlete. So we would rent studio time from them, and we'd go over there. So each of you were on one of the shows in the first 50. Then when you did the first 100, there's two pictures that Marcel and I are going to share with the audience. But when we did the 100, I remember Brev, you weren't comfortable with, with it. You were the least comfortable, but you've got more comfortable.
Yeah,
the internship changed for you.
I think so too. Yeah.
Well, it was back on September 8th in 2016. Carter, what do you remember, if anything, because you weren't even a teenager yet at that time, and now you're.
I do remember the 100th episode a little bit. It was in that studio that you were talking about, and it was after a school day. I think I rode the T in, ironically. Yeah. And we all did that, and that was my second time on the show because I did the 37th or 39th, one of those two. Yeah. And I was like, we were talking about the Cavs and KD, who's better, and we ended up going to the Cavs game the day after. But remember, we recorded that in our old house in your office. With one of those things as big as like a phone. Yeah. And we did that one on the 38th. But I think it's pretty cool that you get to see over the 4 years now I'm the tallest out of everybody. Yeah. So I hope you're all happy about that.
See how quickly he got that in there.
That's cool.
Well, when we show these two pictures, the one is of the NBA trophy when we had season tickets to the Cavs from LeBron's first year through when he went to Miami. So we suffered through having 4 years of really a lousy team, and then when he came back and they won, we all went, and because of season ticket holders, we got to have a picture with the O'Brien trophy, and that picture is on episode 100. So Marcel had them recreate it here. Instead of the NBA champion backdrop, it'll be the No BS backdrop, and you guys all look a little bit different. And as you just mentioned, Carter ended up sprouting the most, and now he's slightly taller than Alec, but all of you have grown grown either during your senior year or freshman year of college. So Carter probably still has some growth, because I remember, Brev, from your junior to senior year to freshman year of college, you grew about 3 inches over that time frame. So even you continued to grow too.
Yeah, it sucks. I got mom's jeans and you gave them your height.
Well, you got all kinds of good things. You all three got a blend of great things. Episode 400 of the No BS Marketing Show is mimicking episode 100 with Alec, Brevin, and Carter, my 3 sons, on the show. And back then, we started off talking about branding and what made good branding. And we tied it back to a number of things that were exciting to all of us. So at that time, it was 2016, and Steph Curry had won 2 MVPs and 1 NBA title. LeBron had won 27 MVPs and won 1 NBA title, and I think Steph might have already had 2 or got one very quickly shortly thereafter. But back then, Steph was the first and I think only unanimous MVP. So we talked about LeBron and Steph as players, and then we talked about who has a better brand. So I thought, a lot has changed, but yet a lot remains the same. And so I'm going to turn to you, Brev. Let's talk about the players, then the brand. Is Steph even close? Back then it was close. Is Steph even close?
Yeah.
Before Alec, Brevin, and Carter give their answers on who they think is the best player now, let's see what their answers were almost 5 years ago in episode 100 of the No Bullshit Marketing Show.
LeBron or Steph from a messaging and image standpoint? Give your take on both.
I feel like it's hard to choose because LeBron's probably the best player, but Steph is more you can relate to. He's smaller and he's like a point guard. There's a lot of kids out there that are like real small and like aren't 6'7" and African American and can dunk a ball so easily. So like I feel like it's hard, but I choose LeBron. I don't know if I had to choose between him or Steph. Like if I had to choose my company, I'd choose LeBron.
So you think he has a stronger brand and a stronger image?
stronger image and brand because he's always doing the right thing because he knows he's smart.
Is he your favorite player?
Yeah, because Kobe's gone.
Yeah, Brev was a big Kobe guy from the time Brev was like 5 or 6 years old. So you think he's the best player in the game right now?
I agree.
Second best all time. Okay, so you think he's second best? I'm not sure. I'm not sure he's at second best. If he gets
another title, he gets number one. But
I'm not sure he's even number 2 yet. Who wants to go second?
I can go. I was going to say probably LeBron for sure because whether you really watch basketball or not, the average Joe might be able to distinct LeBron from anyone else. You could see LeBron and that's LeBron and he's probably the biggest figure in sports. But if you just see Steph Curry on the news or something and you don't really know the backstory, he is more relatable and everything, like Brev said, because he's like our size and everything, more of an average guy. But someone that might be older, maybe uneducated about the sport, they might not even be able to tell you who that guy is.
It's a good point.
I feel that like with LeBron, he's been in Miami, he's been in Cleveland, and anywhere he goes,
he's been on the movies. Follows. He's had movies.
Yeah, he has his own TV show now, and he has his own restaurants and stuff. So I feel that no matter what he does, he's probably going to get it done and get it done the right way.
And interestingly, it shows you how big NBA players are. We're talking about how Steph looks like the average guy. He's 6'3", but in comparison to a 6'8" LeBron or a 7' Dwight Howard or 6'11" Kevin Durant, he looks like an average guy. So Carter, what's your take?
Like Alex said, if you want to start a business, everybody knows who LeBron is. And not everybody, but most people know who LeBron is.
Yeah, I think it's close. I mean, LeBron's easily the best player in the league, but Steph, I was watching the Mavs game last night when he had 50, I don't know if it was 51. He had 57, yeah. I mean, he's doing it with less help. Like, Clay's not there, and then you got Draymond, who gets 0 points, 13 assists, and, 10 rebounds, which, that helps, but it's, there's no scoring to help. Mm-hmm. So he's doing it literally, with Kelly Oubre and, Damian Lee. So yes. LeBron has AD, and they struggled against the Pistons last night, but, I'm just saying that I think LeBron is definitely better, but he's doing it with more. Yes. He has more help.
Yes. Alec, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think Brev's right about all that. He obviously follows the league more than me now, so I can't really speak to that aspect. But I think from a brand ratio, I guess LeBron is just unmatched when it comes to his marketing and everything. I remember people used to talk about Steph's brand at the time, and now I just don't think there's any chance I would buy a pair of Steph Curry basketball shoes. But I'm not speaking for people that have them or don't have them, but I just think LeBron, wherever he goes, just the cult that follows him, Cleveland, Miami, Los Angeles, I don't know if that's the same for Steph, but hopefully he just stays in the Bay and finishes a career there because it's an amazing career.
Yeah, I think that LeBron's brand is so much bigger, but I think Steph helped bring so much awareness to Under Armour, that holds a lot of weight. But, that's true. LeBron is like MJ compared to, branding, so it's, uncomparable. But what do you guys say, Carter?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think LeBron right now, he's going to be the staple of the NBA for another 5 years, and even after that he's still going to be used in advertisements. But I think down the line in maybe 10, 15, 20 years, or looking past even 30 or 40, he just changed the game of basketball, and I think that will be marketed in a different way. And I think a lifetime contract with Under Armour, I think you could see a lot more storytelling, because when you see you talk about what year changed the game. It was really that unanimous MVP season of Curry when he changed the game of basketball to 3-point. And I don't really think there will be a 4-point line anytime soon. So, I mean, he kind of changed the 3-point line and how the game is played.
That's definitely true. I think when you look at it from a basketball standpoint, LeBron's greatness is undeniable. He also changed the game. There have been about 5 or 6 that dramatically changed the game. Up until the 70s, it was really a big man focused game entirely. And even until the 90s, it was you went big man
I saw
first.
this stat a couple weeks ago that showed like the little heat map of where the shots were now, and it's no one even comes in the paint at all. Like even slam dunks will come in, and there's some trace amounts there, but most of the shots are just beyond the arc now. I mean, I saw like early 90s, which is short corner.
Not early 90s. Let me give you a quick progression. So what happened is the first guy that really changed the game dramatically, in my opinion, was Dr. J, because he was the first one that really brought the whole leaping and that aspect of the game and the flair. And then Bird and Magic brought the game back. It was dying, and the NBA Finals were on tape delay. And then Bird and Magic bring it back, save the league, basically. But then Michael changes it. And then from Michael, you have, I would say then LeBron changes it. But to Carter's point, the entire game, if you watch a game from 2011, just 2011,
it was like 97, 94 or something.
and no one could hit threes.
Yeah.
If you were down like 9, you're like, oh, shit, the game's
was
over.
huge. Like, I
Because two
remember-
guys could hit threes.
We were watching the Spurs and Heat one night. I think all of us, like maybe a year ago, it was the Spurs and Heat like replay and NBA throwbacks or something. And Matt Bonner hit like a huge 3, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, like he's so good!" But like now it's like every single guy from like Jokic can just pull and hit a 3.
Just the difference between the three of you, and there's a 7-year difference. From the 7-year difference of Alec or the 5-year difference of Brevin, Carter in 3rd grade was shooting threes repetitively, and I got chastised because when Alec was in 5th grade, I had him and Joey and a couple others shooting threes, and people we played in these leagues would chastise me as a coach. So just in that difference, just in that 7-year period or even 5-year period, you were shooting threes repetitively on a shoot away in 3rd grade. So your shot is so much better than theirs, not because you're better, you might be, but that's my whole argument when we get into these arguments about generations. Your training was so different in just a 5-year period that it gives you a better shot. The same thing with, John Havlicek smoked cigarettes. You know what I mean? So the training was different. Michael Jordan didn't lift weights till the 3rd NBA championship. And so there's things that happen with training that change it. That game has changed now that can be much more beautiful and it can be much uglier.
Yeah, like that's what you hear Van Gundy and a couple of the announcers last night, because they combined for 256 points in an NBA game. Like that's ridiculous with no overtime. Mm-hmm. So like you're playing literally zero defense, which is, I think it's a mix. Like I think it's bad for the game, but I also like that it's like fast paced and more entertaining. But if you want to win games, you have to still play defense.
Well, Steph changed the game because from 2015 is exactly what it was. So you think about it, Alec, that's when you're at Seton, you got your WPIAL ring. I happened to scan through pictures that came up last night on the thing that shows the team photo of you and Ryan Norkus, one of my all-time favorite players, sitting side by side with your WPIAL championship medal, and then also your state runner-up medal by 1 bucket. And you have the WPIAL ring. But just from your 2015, then your 17, and now his era, the shot changed. And a lot of that was due to Steph, because Steph looks human. LeBron doesn't look human. A 7-footer Giannis doesn't look human to any of us. Steph is 6'3", but he doesn't appear to be 6'3" because he's skinny. So the average person feels, I can do that. And so that's why Steph's had such a big impact on the game too. All right. So that was one of the first things we talked about. Another thing we talked about, we'll get back into more sports here on the 400th episode of the No BS Marketing Show with Alec, Brevin, Carter, Mastovich here celebrating. Marcel working multiple cameras and got the audio going, so we appreciate that. When we talked, and what makes this great is when we talked in September of 2016, both Alec and Brevin were getting marketed for colleges. And we talked about what they thought worked, what didn't, what helped get them to decide. So I told you guys I was going to force you to talk about college messaging, college marketing, because both of you are receiving a lot of stuff in the mail right now, Alec and Brevin, with related to college. and you've gone through that experience of colleges trying to recruit you to get you to visit. What's your take on when they've done it well and when they haven't done it well?
I feel like it's better whenever you send me an email. I actually look at it more instead of the old, you send like a little thing in the like mail, like one of those little cards, like what I get sometimes, but I don't even really read those. Whenever they send me an email, I like go on and they have little links where you can go and look. Like, for example, like Waynesburg or somebody else like that who just did it like a couple days ago. It gives me easier like access to like look into my phone, like I can like go see like what the college looks like and stuff. And like when you send me a little piece of paper, I like see a picture of what they want me to see. I can go like do my own research if I want to actually even consider the college. You know what I mean?
It's good insight. I didn't realize you read emails because you don't read mine.
I have a school email
that you never gave me because you don't want me.
It's illegal. You can't get on into it.
Okay, that was insightful. It was good. Carter, what are your? No, I'm sorry, Alec. Carter's not being recruited for college yet, thankfully.
I would probably agree with what Brev's saying for the most part, except I feel like for me, getting something that's like a hard copy in the mail is probably more meaningful to me than probably getting an email, because I agree with what he's saying, that you can look up and that you can find what you really want instead of seeing what they want to see. But, you know, they probably send those emails to so many people, and not that they don't send the letters out to so many people as well, but whenever you actually get something in the mail, you can hold it, you can think about it, look it over, and then go online and look what you really need. But for me, I feel like the messaging standpoint is whenever I get those paper ones, say for maybe every 5 letters I would get, maybe a month or something, I'd say at least 2 of those were probably spelled with my name wrong. So for me, that's usually like an instant. I don't even have any interest there anymore.
Which first or last name? Because you get both.
So I feel like most colleges, they just feel like my name is Alex. Just about every letter I get says Alex on it. So.
And for our listeners, Alec, Brevin, Carter, 3 names that Darlene, I think, were a little bit unique. Well, I can still see Darlene and I at every first time Alec met someone, they would call you Alex, and we'd always go Alec with a C. And then Brevin, it gets even more butchered, doesn't it, Brev?
Yeah.
Like at school when you had new teachers in the early years.
It's surprisingly not that bad with the teachers, honestly. Like if you're not stupid, you can read it and like easily like spell it out. But I mean, whenever I get a sub, like if the dude's like a guy that's a little clown, like if he says my name wrong, I just don't answer. And then I'm like, yeah, it's me. And then like I tell him my name, and it usually gets a little chuckle around people. But
that reminds me of the
doesn't really happen. Doesn't really happen with like my main teachers, you know, at school and stuff. And then like when I first meet people, maybe they don't hear it at first, but then people usually remember it because like it's a different name, you know.
And so now they're in the place where they're about ready to be done with college. So we'll talk about getting marketed and trying to market themselves for jobs. But let's turn to you, Carter, real quick. And then I'll come back to you guys to tell me what you think about college marketing. College marketing. College is trying to get you to go to their school. It's completely different with the pandemic. And let me say this, too. The reason we don't have masks on is we're family. So I don't want anybody being mad thinking we're not 6 feet apart. We've been exposed to each other. We've all had COVID. So, Carter, what's the thing with COVID being less people going to college possibly, and it's all virtual, and we'll bring Brevin and Alec in about that, but how is the college marketing impacting you? What do you think works? What doesn't? What's helping you with your decision?
Well, some schools, when I see them, like the letters come in, and if it's not a school that I know about, I'll look it up, and it takes about 20 seconds to look. And if I don't really like the campus and it doesn't really major necessarily in business that well, then it's like it's kind of off my list. But like some schools like Indiana University of Bloomington, where Cuban went, that's like an amazing, like beautiful business school. And like that's something that I would like to see. So I took a virtual tour, and it took like maybe a minute and like 10 seconds to go through the entire campus. Not the entirety of it, but like most of it. And most of these schools now, like they just have virtual tours, and it's not really hands-on. It's so, COVID changed the world obviously immensely, but you really wouldn't think it would change like every single aspect of life, but it even changed that too. So I think it was pretty cool.
I see that letters come in and postcards come in, and I still notice those kind of things because that's how I come up in the era. But do you even look at any of the stuff they mail to you?
Well, it's all the same thing, and I know one of our questions is growing up with being in a marketing family. So we get to see what bullshit marketing is and what real marketing is. And you open like 3 letters and they all say, "Hello, Carter," and scripted message that I sent to 27,000 other people. So it's like you really just throw that away because you know it's not a real meaningful letter. So I don't really care about it. No.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's pull in Alec and Brevin. So you guys jump in on, you've been through it now and you've gone through with the different marketing to you about the college stuff.
Yeah. I was going to say something about what Carter was saying. I think it's going to be really difficult for colleges to market to students because I know I go to IUP and I'm finishing my undergrad this semester and then I'm going for my MBA. I have seen a dramatic decrease of students at IUP, and let alone like any colleges. People just don't care as much to go to college because of the cost and everything. So I think it's hard enough for them to market it. And I think that direct mail, I think, is their best option. I really do. Because when I used to get the emails, I wouldn't even care to look at the emails because it's like kind of spammy, kind of. But at least they're taking the time to do direct mail. And I think that's good they're doing the virtual tour because I guess I can save you time and energy, I guess, from driving to the campus just to waste your time if you don't like one of the campuses.
Yeah, it's all like digital world now because like I might want to go tour that school, but now I got to see a little bit of it from the digital aspect, and instead of like looking up pictures of like what everything looks like, it's like all there for me. So I think they're doing a pretty good job with their situation.
Well, me and you had this conversation recently, I think in the last year. I said to you, do you think that colleges are going to like not die off, but is it even going to be worth it in like 40 to 50 years and stuff like, because it's hard to like justify paying all this money.
Yes.
And if you don't get a job, then it's like a waste. Like I have buddies that are majoring in stuff that like they wish they did something more easier to get a job, basically. Like I don't know. So I mean, it's just hard to say. Like, is it even? It's going to be difficult for them because like our tuition increased this semester, and it's on Zoom and virtual. So like, if it's increasing now, why wouldn't it increase in 5 to 10 years?
Well, I know, but if someone were paying a bill for Harvard or Holy Cross or wherever, I get frustrated with the bills knowing it's all Zoom and it's you've had some scholarship money and it's a state school, so I can't even imagine those bigger schools. What I would say about colleges, I think the internet is the most important thing that's ever happened to the society, and it's just leveled playing fields across the board, whether it's in music where it leveled the playing field between the power of the company and gives the power back to the artists. Even we see in the NBA the power is going to the players. Well, the same thing's happening with college. I believe that you can get a lot of education. College isn't for everybody, and the problem with college is a non-traditional student has this deck stacked against them because college is built to have someone be structured and read and checklists and follow the syllabus. And that's not for most people. It's not for most, let alone just for everybody. It's not for most. So what you saw in the last 10 years is more and more people doing things like programs where they teach you a trade like photography or video or graphic design in a short time and then get you placed somewhere to actually do it. For someone like that that's not a traditional student, that's so much better. And then I think there's so many other ways to learn now with the internet. So I believe that college will continue to become less and less important. And I believe the brands, other than that absolute top tier brand, Harvard, Yale, Princeton, those will still be fine. But the difference between Duquesne University, Westminster, IUP, Pitt, and wherever, that is way less. Like there's, first of all, in all my years of hiring, and I've hired thousands of people, I rarely ever worried about where they got their undergrad from. Rarely ever. There's one person that did get her undergrad from Harvard and her master's from the Cats, and I remember when I hired her, I thought, this is great. This person's got to be super smart. But that's one out of thousands, and I've hired thousands of people over the course of my career. I just don't believe that it has because of the internet. It's not like when I was coming up where there was more of a network and more of you went here. So I think it is going to get less and less, and I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, no, I completely agree.
You look like you're chomping at the bit. Jump in.
Well, yeah, no, I completely agree. I just I have friends that don't go to college that are still making money and having like good life. So like I don't regret going. I love college. I had a great experience. I'm still there, and I think it's great to do it. But I just think that if you go to a bigger school than like a state school, and you're gonna spend $30K and have all these loans in the future, like $30K for like the year or whatever, and not even like I know people that have like $120,000 in debt, like college debt. Like that's just insane. So I think that you have to justify that by getting a job to be able to pay that off within like 15 to 20 years, you know, or it's like not even worth it. Why would you waste $120,000 for?
Alec, jump in. You've experienced some of this, and give us your thoughts.
Yeah, so I have like a different take on all of it. I'm not real sure where college will be in the future because, like Brevin said, I have friends on both sides of the spectrum where many have 6 figures of debt, but many actually have not 6-figure jobs yet from doing their own trades and everything like that, but they have steady lives and they can withstand what their means are. And if you're sitting in school with a lot of debt, I don't really know how I could get myself to wake up and say, oh, I got to wake up and start paying off this $120,000 in debt. That would set me so far back mentally. But like I'm an interesting non-traditional student where I've been in the classroom and online, so following the business degree and everything I've been trying to get is interesting. But I feel as if I've learned more from people hands-on with like colleagues like you and clients we've worked with and other people in different fields of life. Not to discount the school, but I can't speak to how good the education would be at a CAT school of business or somewhere at Harvard, but I'm sure it's probably worth it. But not to discount any of the state schools or anything, because even I've attended them. But what I've learned there helps me, but I feel that I'm just kind of trying to get the degree to separate myself from other people. So for me, I just feel as if it was a good route, but I'm not real sure what I would do. I can't see, like, I saw kids that have scholarships to go do Kane, and now they want to do electrician work, and it's just...
Well,
and the other thing to jump in on is I actually don't understand how schools can raise tuition right now, like Brev said. Like, even I saw ours went up a little bit, but if anything, I think it should go down. I mean, I don't know how. I know that they have bills to pay and everything, but I'm not learning the same as I would have if I was in a classroom with, per se, Dr. Shuley, you know, so... I don't know. Brev could maybe add more to it because he's actually more on campus and everything, but it's just...
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I understand why there's cuts and then tuition increases. Like, I'm not naive, but I just think it's just insane to expect your tuition or your enrollment to go up if tuition's going to increase. Like, it just doesn't,
exactly.
Like, you can't be, like, crazy and think that it's going to happen. So, I don't know. It's tough. Like, I think that, like, back to the beginning to what we were saying, I think it's going to be really hard for colleges to market to students because you have people like what you just said, like, you don't need to go to college anymore. Like, you could still be fine.
Yeah, which is
it.
tough is how do you get people that don't want to go to school or don't think they need it to go now? Because, like you said, you think direct mail works, and I think it probably does to some extent, but, like, I don't really know.
Yeah, like
Carter said, most of us are scripted messages. Hey, Carter. Hey, Brevin. Hey, Tom.
With COVID and everything, I know, like, one thing that was big with me is, like, in terms of in the past year, what I've learned is investing. And I invest a bunch in the stock market, almost everything that I save. And I learned that a lot actually from Alec because and my dad, obviously, of course, he taught probably dad a little bit too. But that's one thing like Alec did that separated himself way earlier before the curve because now with GameStop and AMC and everything that happened in the past following weeks, like everybody is now like, oh, well, I can just get in the stock market. Which makes sense. But like, if you hit it big off of GameStop or if you do something like e-commerce, why would you go to college? Mm-hmm. What's the point if you just got $100,000 and you can invest that for a span of 15 years and you'll have like 300,000? That's just, why would you do it?
Well, the thing about it is you have to find out what drives you and what your unique ability is. And one of the things, I'm human, so I've made many mistakes and I have many weaknesses. But what I tried to do with all three of you was, first of all, when you were really little, I believed strongly in unstructured play. Society's just so structured, so I wanted unstructured play. But once you guys hit 16, each of you, I would sit down and say, here's a small amount of money, go ahead and invest. And even it was under my name, just so you guys would get experience at it. And I remember, to your point about Alec, I'll never forget when Alec was on the phone and someone wanted to know what his tax ID number was and how he could possibly have all this money, and he had made so much from investing, and you had to put him on hold, and you're like, Dad, what do I tell him? And I said, it's your birthday money, Christmas money from your grandparents. And he got on because they said, where did you earn this money? You know, how did you get to this big figure? And he took a small amount and took it to a big figure. Brev and Carter, you both done that in different ways as well, with taking basically your ability to see trends, whether it's through gambling or the stock market or whatever.
Yeah.
And so you guys have all done that. And so that's been impressive. But the major question was, where's it going to be? And I want to talk about how, Alec, you're a non-traditional student. You have a very high EQ. And I'm saying this as a dad who studies this stuff. And all three of you have a pretty good, high EQ. Your mom has a high EQ. I'd like to think I have a high EQ. And EQ is emotional quotient. There's intelligence quotient, IQ, emotional quotient. So there's Alec, who can read people, and you respond to the room and you respond to people. So Zoom would be very difficult for you. You're able to read and react. You talked about your experience. You met Mark Marmo, CEO of Deep Well Service, when you were like 14, and you talked to him like he was one of your friends. That's what I'm most proud of all three of you. You learn all that. So you going to school to get that degree, because you have to have the degree in business. You have to, if you're going to get your job, and you're all required to work somewhere else before you work here. You all know you have to work 3 years somewhere else if you want to work here, and if you don't, that's cool too. You suffered through that when it's not your style, and it's admirable. But that's my whole point, is if you don't have that traditional mindset, you ought to be able to do something and not have to worry so much about a degree. And we're getting there. I think 10 years from now, I'm hiring people now, and I'm looking at them differently than I did 5 years ago. And 5 years ago, I was looking at them differently. And I remember 20 years ago, I didn't care as much. And back then, people would just look at me like I was out of this world, because I would go, I don't care that they don't have a 4-year degree. And someone would go, whoa, what are you talking about? I think we're getting there. I think we're getting to where you can be a non-traditional student and be yourself. And that's the beauty of the internet, because now we're allowing all of us to be ourselves. Whereas 30 years ago, that wasn't the case. You were judged for weird, stupid, wrong things. Still are, always will be. But I'm saying we've come a long way because of the internet. So I think what you're doing and how you've done it is very important about this whole issue about education.
Stay tuned in for next week's episode featuring Alec, Brevin, and Carter as they continue to reflect on answers from episode 100 that they gave almost 5 years ago. Remember, ask yourself, what is the big idea? And build your story around the answer. It's all about bold solutions, no BS.